Hi, welcome to another Epidose with these crazy cats that can't stop eating meat and talking about it. Today we have a very special guest on the show, Niti, the pharmacist. Woo! And then some of the usual suspects. We got Raymond, Nazan, Joe Zumbo, Emily Penton, and the usual Tom Clark right here. I've lost some weight recently. You know, I took a black marker, colored myself just a little more tan, you know. No, I'm just kidding. We have a very special video for you coming up and a special topic. So whenever you're ready, Tom.
Yeah, I just want to kick things off with this video here. So let's take a little listen here and see what this gentleman has to say.
From the headwaters of Bitter Creek, Archer County, North Texas, we have to talk. State officials will be assisting to help identify potential alternative markets if a producer is unable to move animals and, if necessary, advise and assist on depopulation and disposal methods. Ladies and gentlemen, we are plowing under vegetable crops from coast to coast. We are euthanizing millions of chickens. We are aborting sows and burying feeder pigs. We are dumping milk by the hundreds of thousands of gallons, and now they are preparing us to depopulate the fat cattle ready to harvest because of a bottleneck created by the effects of COVID. This thing hasn't been created by COVID, but the effects of COVID and the logistics therein. We are in trouble. Our food supply is in trouble, and I am appealing to producers and consumers across the nation to start calling. Yesterday, the first shipment of imported beef from the country of Namibia hit the shores of the United States of America. And yet this morning, they are telling us to prepare to euthanize harvest-ready cattle. Am I the only one that sees a problem in this? It is time we get the American people back to work. It is time we get money flowing. It is time we get food on the shelves. Because if you're not concerned about this food supply problem, you better be. We have a huge supply and demand of food across this nation. We can feed the world ourselves, and yet we're destroying our harvests. At the same time, we are importing beef from other countries, beef that is less regulated than our beef, less safe, not as high quality of product, and yet it's happening. At the same time, they are preparing for us to euthanize our harvests. Does that make sense to America? For the last 10 years, we have been pressed to be sustainable. I've said all along, sustainability is a fraud. And right now, we're being forced to destroy our harvests. That doesn't sound like sustainability to me, but it is part of the overall goal to vertically integrate your food system. You see, they cannot have control of the people unless they have control of the food, the water, the land, production. It is time we get back to work. It is time the American people force the government to listen to us. We are of, by, and for the people. This is not Nancy Pelosi's country. This is not Donald Trump's country. This is your country, and you're going to go hungry. We must get regional and local packing houses up and going. Do we have to have those big packing plants? You bet we do, and they need to be running right now. We need help. You as a consumer are in trouble. My dad told me years ago, the best thing that would happen to America is if everybody had to sit in the dark, cold and hungry, and that would wake them up. Well, I think it's coming. We're in a dangerous position, ladies and gentlemen. We need to get inspectors into these small plants. We need to get better inspectors. We need to get going on this today, not tomorrow, today. You need to be calling your legislators. We need to be opening up the country. Your food supply is in danger. Ranchers are going broke every day. We're doing all we can to stay here. We are in crisis in America. This is a crisis. This is a national crisis. And everybody's just sitting back enjoying their time off, enjoying that $1,200, not knowing that overnight you're going to go hungry. It's coming. Ladies and gentlemen, we need your help. We need your help today. Everybody, all hands on deck. It's time. We need you to go to demandUSAbeef.com, sign the petition for country of origin labeling. People want to know where their food comes from. I don't want any beef out of Namibia. I don't want any beef out of Brazil. I want my own beef. I'm blessed to be able to eat my own beef, but a lot of you aren't, and you need the freedom to choose your product. Demand mandatory country of origin labeling. Demand that these people get back to work. Where have our patriots gone? Where are you? I ask you that today. This thing's going to be incredibly tough overnight. It's already tough. You think the shelves were empty 2 weeks ago. You just wait. We have a bottleneck in this processing facility and the logistics in this transportation system of our food supply. You think we're not in trouble? We are. I'm sorry. My tone is so bad. I'm so upset. But we have got to get this going today, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your support. Producers, start reaching out to consumers. Forget these associations. Forget all of the corrupt bull crap that's been going on. We got to put a stop to it too. It's time. My apologies for my tone. I'm worried about my country.
Aw.
What say you, meatheads?
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Pretty
Like
powerful.
that's crazy that they're making them kill or get rid of their harvest whenever there's people that need the meat. That's so illogical and so against nature.
Anyone else?
I have lots to say, but I don't know when it's my turn, so I'll wait.
Oh, go ahead. Jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Niti.
Bring it, baby.
You know I'm going to be offending people. Are you okay with that?
Bring it. I love it.
God. Well, I kind of feel like Shad's been put up to this. I love half of what he's saying, and I don't love half of what he's saying. Bet you didn't think that was going to happen.
No, I didn't.
Who?
But-
You know him?
Well, I'm trying to reach out to Shad, actually, because I wanted to talk to him, but he's not talking to me. And, I mean, I'm nobody. He doesn't need to talk to me. But I was trying to ask him some specific questions. And I do want to talk to him. And I'm wondering, how can I put this? He's saying on one side, we need to get the inspectors in the plants. That is not patriotic. And then he's saying, where are the patriots? That's
Well, see, I think what's going on. I think what's going on right here is that he's saying we got to get these plants rolling again because we got to start having to put this cattle down. But previous to that, he said we need that we need to have the smaller processing plants that are spread out rather than them being so centralized. So I think really what's going on here is he didn't really have time in his 6-minute speech to really explain that at this moment we need to get these plants going so that we're not euthanizing all these animals.
So there's not a bottleneck.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I work with the small plants all the time. And yes, they're not mechanized and they can't do the 50 million cattle that they do every day because there's only 3 major processing plants in the entire country. So the fragility of the centralized plan has always been a problem. I've only been talking about it forever, and Joel Salatin before me and everybody before him. But, and we kept saying that this system will collapse. It can collapse within a day because of something like this, for example. And so I heard him say, you know, sustainability, nothing about what they're doing is sustainable. So as exemplified by what is happening at this moment. And calling all the inspectors is not the solution. How about stop government oversight? How about all of this is voluntary? How about all of it is unconstitutional? When are the patriots going to stand up and say, we're not doing this voluntary thing instead of being terrorized by nature? Because that's what they're trying to do. So what's happening is the government all around the world, the governments have decided that Bill Gates or whoever his powers are that be, or whoever's idea it is that this is a pandemic. First of all, if it's a pandemic, why are we importing meat? If it's a pandemic, why are we bringing in meat? It makes no sense. Why are we bringing in anything or sending out anything? I just sent Thomas a link where all our pork is being exported. So the pork producers, before they're euthanizing it, they're sending it out and making profit on it. Why? Because China owns Smithfield. China owns all the pork production in America. And so they're able to export, which is really them just taking what they own. So there's too many confusing pieces here. But what I would think is important is, why are the American people not saying that, you know, hey, why are you going to import beef instead of giving us our beef that we raised over here on our own on any level? It makes no sense. Nobody knows that Smithfield is taking their beef to China because
Did you guys
they
see
own
this article that Niti sent?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you can go down into that article, you can see that it's exporting to China. Well, why does China own Smithfield? Why were the Americans not, why were North Carolinians not up in arms when that happened 2 years ago, when I was up in arms about it, but nobody else seemed to care? And now everybody's all mad, but I'm just like, everybody's mad about all the wrong things. That's the problem. And as much as I want to see the centralized system collapse, I'm not trying to have all Americans starve. And also, why are you importing meat during a pandemic if it's real, which I don't believe, which doesn't make sense? I mean, do you believe it?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, there is, I mean, we can debate whether the virus, how much of a pandemic it warrants response and all that. But I think here, so one thing with his video is that I don't see how putting more regulation, I understand the importance of, you know, knowing where the beef comes from or whatever meat standards and all of that. But at the same time, who's going to comply? Who's going to pay for putting on those labels? It's going to drive up the price of our food. And as like with a lot of international regulation, the United States complies, the rest of the world doesn't comply, and, you know, we get stuck fitting the bill on both sides anyway.
I would say that having to label the beef, in fact, if you go to the store right now, most grocery stores voluntarily label it. And it was required up until the last administration, which got away with country of origin, and eliminating it as a requirement didn't save any money. So why would and so when I go to the store, I look and see, and it's usually labeled product of the USA or whatever,
or USDA Select or something like that,
right?
You know?
Well, USDA Select just means that,
yeah, that's a grade stamp. Yeah,
USDA Select does not mean that it's a product of U.S. origin. It just means
it
it
was
was inspected.
inspected. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, inspected.
It was just inspected. And also I have to say too, I don't believe that imported meat quality is the problem. Why are we importing meat when we have meat?
Yeah, that's the thing.
That is literally the only problem. It is not
we
that
have we have a
imported
system that is inherently flawed. You're sending all these animals, the bulk of the animals, to be processed in a few locations, right?
Right.
And it's given an advantage to very large corporations. Most of them are pretty much multinational corporations. They don't have any allegiance to the United States in particular. They have allegiance to a profit for their shareholders. And this is a risky thing. It was just like that whole thing. There were the facility that made 80% of the IV bags was down there in Puerto Rico or something like that, right on the shore. And people are like, hey, if a hurricane comes along, it's going to take out that facility, and that's going to cripple the ability to make IV bags, which is crucial, right? I mean, every time you go in a hospital, you see IV bags hanging everywhere, right? And that's exactly what happened. A hurricane came along and shut that place down. So, that's a little bit more extreme of an example, but we know, I mean, the only reason why the internet is so robust is because it's a dispersed network, right? There's redundancies involved. There's a redundancy of both the ability for nodes to communicate, but there's multiple nodes. So if we apply that sort of concept to meat packing, you would have smaller facilities that'd be spread out and be more regional, which is, I think, is what Shad was alluding to in the beginning there, although not too clearly. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it, is because it made sense. It's like, why are we euthanizing and burying animals that could be food and importing food all the way from Africa? I mean, we don't even import hardly any beef from Brazil. Brazil's a bit closer than Africa, believe it or not. And so why is this going on? It's ridiculous and it makes no sense. And the thing is, moving forward is to improve the system, right? It's to break up these monopolies as they were. They seem like monopolies to me. They seem like just under that alone, they should be unconstitutional, right? You should be able to take it to the court and say, look, you got this handful of companies like it's Cargill, Tyson, and what's the other conglomerate? What's that?
Smithfield.
There's Smithfield, and then
breed, there's like 3. So
there's the one with a strange name that's owned. I think it's Brazilian owned. I forgot the name of it. But anyways, why are they allowed to exist, right? Why are they allowed to monopolize the industry and create a network that is very vulnerable to things like?
What about, why are they allowed to self-inspect? Why are they allowed to have a revolving door in the USDA and the FDA? Why are they allowed? The reason is because if you have a corporatocracy that has run the government, basically, because they're owning the government because they bought the government, and then everybody now is going to be like, oh, conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
it's not a conspiracy theory. You can trace all this back.
We should probably explain that. So this is what we call regulatory capture. And so what happens in regulatory capture is you essentially have a business or an industry essentially writing its own regulation. And then what she means by revolving door is you might have an FDA inspector, or probably more likely the inspector's boss, works at the government for a while, and then he gets a cushy job in the corporate world for doing favors. And if we want to talk about conspiracy theory, people have this concept of deep state, and I don't think they realize what the deep state is. The deep state is all these bureaucrats, the people that are not elected, that are in positions in the government for long periods of time, doing what they will. It's just like, what was the gentleman that was on your meeting this morning that's running for office? What was his name?
Roy.
Yeah. So like he was saying, it's like, if he gets out of office, he's going to have to fire half those people.
Yeah.
Those people are essentially the deep state. They have a job, they've been hired, and they sit there and they create policy. They essentially create laws, in effect, that we all have to follow, that none of us voted on. And half of us have absolutely no awareness of what's going on. And this is what happens these days. you know, these organizations will get an attorney or a group of attorneys quite frequently to sit down and write a proposed law or regulation for the bureaucracy and say, yeah, this is what we'd like to see. And they walk in and go, oh yeah, this sounds good. They show them all the reasons why it sounds good. And of course, don't disclose all the reasons why it's better for the business or the corporation or the industry or the shareholders or whoever it be. And then that gets put into effect. And then we get that's in a sense where this deep state is, right? It's not the president, it's not Congress. They come and go, right? They might be a part of it. They might buy into it. But essentially the people that are there decade after decade are just bureaucrats. And like you said, they oftentimes wind up walking out the door and get a real cushy corporate job as compensation for doing the business while a government employee, right? And that's why
yeah, I mean, so that's like Fauci, right? Just to name a controversial name. Like nobody really knew who he was probably until this year. Or until all this just came out. So he's been a scientist on a payroll for decades, or at least a decade, and is actually has conflict of interest. But when it comes to these meat packers, they have to have an inspector on site. It's easier to control when there's just like 3 major companies. And if the government right now decides that everybody needs to stop and, you know, this is for the greater good because of this like pandemic or whatever, then it's easy to stop 3 companies. But if you have an entire nation of small meat processors, which they've effectively closed over the past 100 years, like in North Carolina, we only have like 3 small ones that we can use, which is ridiculous. So any of the local regenerative farmers have to drive really far with their animals for a long time, you know, and I'm talking about 3 to 5 hour rides one way just to go get them processed, which should never happen. We should be able to just go within, you know, maybe 50 miles, you know, and get somewhere within an hour and have your animals processed. And they have effectively eliminated that. Now, had they left all those small processors in place, then at this moment, every state would be able to just manage their own meat and no one would have a problem. And they haven't done that because it doesn't make sense for them to do that for their financial benefit. And they can control it more easily by just having 3 huge, large, centralized spaces. And so when they wanted to sell olive pork to China, it was only a decision between Smithfield and China. That shouldn't even be allowed to happen. So I think that we're choosing a lot of this stuff. I mean, we get to choose every day how to participate. And then that brings me back to the whole, you know, okay, if you want to argue for your limitations to not be able to have regenerative because you don't want to figure out a relationship with somebody close to you, you can, you know, but then this is the situation you end up in. And I'm not happy about it, for sure, as much as I'm for regenerative, and you guys all know that. But do I think that all of the rest of America who's not prepared for this should just have to be forced to starve tomorrow? No, I don't obviously think that's a good idea. Also, Americans can anytime right now just stand up and just say, we don't participate in the shutdown. I'm sure a lot of those employees need to work. They want to work. I'm sure there's enough of them that want to come to work. I mean, they were saying that they can't get people to work, but I don't believe that. And all of them don't have a cushy check either. I bet you those meat plant operator people are not sitting at home with that check. And they're all probably furloughed and they're not getting paid. Like a lot of people are home getting paid. Do we have any proof that they're actually getting paid? Because I don't believe so.
Right. Yeah, that's all. I mean, very speculative. But yeah, I mean, there are people that
they're mostly hourly. They're
want
not
to have
salary.
a job right now. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, you know, I was running through the articles I saw several, and you know, where you have something like 80 people are caught with the virus, so they shut the whole thing down, you know, out of like 3,000 employees or something ridiculous like that, you know, or like it's found at one plant, so they shut down all the plants, you know, which is kind of like, I think everyone's kind of complained about what seems to be overreaction. You know, so is now a good time for me to run through some articles, or do we gotta kind of talk about more local stuff?
Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
All right, so here Fox Business, fast food chains typically buy 50% beef trim and 90% lean. However, demand for trim has increased its price, drawn to $1.93 per pound, up from 25 cents per pound at the beginning of April, according to the report. Grocery stores may also have to crack down on the number of meat products consumers can buy at one time if they are not already. Food supply chain expert Howard Dorman, consulting firm for Fox Business. There's another one, USA Today. Billy Roberts, a food and drink analyst with market research from Mintel, said there's been a huge surge in sales of meats and frozen foods. Here's some of the issues. So because of regulation, you can't, so there's this issue of milk where they don't have people to process the milk to get it ready for shipment, you know, pasteurize it. And milk A goes rotten over time, as anyone knows that's left a milk in the fridge for too long. When you try and pour it into the cereal the next day, it kind of just goes, and it's not fun. Say bye-bye to that Raisin Bran. Anyway, although you shouldn't be eating Raisin Bran anyway, but anyway, it's a childhood story. And so that milk has to be processed, and you have to keep the cows pumping, you know, because they're on like a set rotation. And so they have too much milk and nowhere to sell it, nowhere to take it. And so in here in this article, it was talking about how he can't just donate milk to charities because straight from the farm, it's unpasteurized and unbottled. State law, for one thing, would prohibit that. We can't just pull up in front of a food pantry with a 7,000-gallon tank and say, here you go, get your jugs out and we will fill them. But some people don't understand. So that's really sad. You know, I think, you know, charity, they can't even give it away. Foreign policy, obviously the one that's going to be mostly affected are the poor and children in third world nations. We're talking Canadian imports of onions and eggplants from India have plummeted because all the nations are hoarding food. And so, yeah, we're seeing this could become a global crisis. I think the UN has even predicted possibly up to 3 billion in starvation. That number is probably inflated, don't get me wrong. But, you know, the third world, they count on subsidies from the Western world. And if places like Russia, where a lot of nations get their rice, are holding on to their rice, other nations are holding on to their premier crops because they want to feed their own people first for obvious reasons, there's not going to be anything left over, or even if there is too much regulation, they just won't be allowed to donate, give, or sell to the third world.
So
go ahead, Niti.
Yeah, we have all our food here that we're not allowed to just get from the farms because somebody has their hand down our throat all the time. And we let them because we chose to participate and we want their protection. Do you see how that works? Do you see how that works? And the only way to make it not be that way is to get out of the grocery store and let them know that you're not going to support it. And if you do get out of the grocery store, these farmers would still be making these videos just like this because that's how many people would be affected and collapse, you know. And if everybody in America would just sit down and just say, okay, we don't want the government protection. How do you know we don't know any better? How do you know that we don't? What they've done is they put a iron curtain up and made you believe that, you know, you don't know what's good for you, when the truth is you can't see what's happening, and they're not making decisions in your best interest anyway. And if you were wanting to have the decisions made in your best interest, then you would see what the costs for those things are, and then you would find out that you have to pay more anyway. That's all this stuff. This is such a big complex thing now. Now that they've started this collapse, you know, on the one side, it's good because you have an opportunity to learn how to figure all these other things out. And on the other side, it's bad because there's so many people that are going to be put out of work who are not going to probably have a job to go back to, because if you have enough people figuring out how to homestead, hoard, these people around here, have you not seen the preppers? I mean, they're all planting gardens and they've hoarded all the grain. I mean, it wasn't just the toilet paper that they were hoarding. You know, people have been buying like 50, 100-pound bags of grain, like tons of it. Not that I think you should eat grain, but you know, they bought a bunch of pantry items to help them sustain themselves. I know people who are buying chickens left, right, and center, like living livestock, a lot of livestock being bought right now. And all these guys that are saying they have to euthanize their animals, I mean, they could probably sell a lot of their animals live. And, you know, people can take them home, and even if they just butcher them themselves in their own backyard so that they can freeze them, they won't have to not be without food.
Right, but that's illegal, right, Niti?
Well, you're not allowed to live.
Right.
I mean, you
right.
know, you're supposed to disinfect yourself right now. I mean, all this entire thing that they're doing right now is hilarious to me, because if I'm alive, I can't be disinfected. You know,
We are walking germs.
Antibacterial. That means anti-life. But no one's having that conversation. Nobody's saying that. You know.
Right. So I just want to take a minute to say, just in case anyone thinks that, you know, Beyond Meat or a soy-based product is safe. Here, this is from Newsweek. The market research firm Nielsen said nationwide sales of meat alternatives rose by 224% in the week ending April 25th, compared to the same period in 2019. So people were rushing to the fake meat because either they thought it would be preserved better, or they were scared of meat, or maybe, well, the World Health Organization, which we should have pulled up, said that eating meat will make you more likely to have complications from coronavirus. But this article came out, I think, before that. So Beyond Meat recently signed a good deal with Shuangda Foods. It's Chinese, can't pronounce it right, sue me. Located in China's Shandong province. Shuangda will provide 85% of the pea protein for its products. So 85% of the pea protein that goes into Beyond Meat is coming straight from China. Now, I have vegan friends that are complaining about coronavirus infection in meat packing plants. Sorry, you can't complain to me about that when 85% of the pea protein is coming straight from China, where the outbreak originated from. And they're going to purchase...
Funded by Gates, and funded by Bill Gates, and funded by Bill Gates. And
yeah, there's lots of Hollywood types and stuff like that are behind the processed pea protein and stuff like that, and that's why they roll out a lot of these celebrities and stuff like that, because they invested either money in growing the crops or processing or developing the fake foods that they make from it. So
I'm not talking about him as a celebrity. I'm talking about him as a person who's vested.
No, I'm not. I'm saying there's people
meat.
other than Bill Gates, is what I'm saying. There's
okay, but
because you know they trotted out you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff like that, because what's his name? Is it Cameron? James Cameron, the movie maker?
Yeah, he also promoting a lot of plant-based
in it as well, right? So it's not just Bill Gates, but there's a lot of these wealthy people that think that they're going to, you know, invest their money in something like this and make it sound like it's healthy for people to eat fake food made from pea protein, which in the end is just going to be a product shipped from China. So
I just want to read just a couple of more things. Just a reason why China asshole, don't trust China. So Chinese-made baby formula laced with melamine killed 6 children and hospitalized 53,000 a year later. I think after 29 or I don't know. I don't know what year that is. Sorry, I miscopied it. But undeclared wheat gluten was the other culprit in the damaging Chinese pet food episode. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration reported in January 2020 that pet food is not subject to mandatory inspections in China. And then a study in 2018 from the Clean Label Project, a nonprofit watchdog that licenses safety certifications to food producers, found significant levels of lead, arsenic, mercury, cadmium, and other toxins in a majority of 130 protein powders sold at Amazon and organic food sellers. 75% of the protein powders had elevated levels of lead. 55% had elevated levels of BPA, an endocrine disruptor the medical research suggests may be linked to type 2 diabetes. Today, China processes up to 79% of the soy protein isolate, 50% of the textured soy protein, and 23% of the soy protein concentrate used worldwide, according to research published by the Good Food Institute, an advocacy group that promotes vegan food, which I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, so vegans, you know, plant-based advocates, go ahead and chow down on that. Yeah, but as carnivores, we ain't got to sweat that. Just throwing it out there.
So you know that we raise a lot of that soy and pea protein here for China that we import from China because they own that here.
Yeah, and they process out a lot of the soybean oil there, and then we wind up re-importing the leftover meal. Sometimes that's
it doesn't leave. It doesn't come into this country from there. It's already here.
Oh no, they do. They do actually process most of the world's soybean oil in China. So
I mean,
we're talking, because a lot of you'd be surprised how many finished foods are actually made in China now. You know, you're at the checkout aisle, the supermarket, pick up like a package of mints or something. You'd be surprised how much of that stuff is made in China, even like candy and stuff like that, like some very popular brands. So, and some of those bars and stuff like that. So a lot of that soy that might be grown here goes over there, squeeze the oil out of it, make some sort of crappy food. And I know this is one of the new complaints. You know, people have been fighting fluoride in the water for a long time. But the fluoride that they put in the water now comes from China, and it's also laced with all, you know, arsenic and all kinds of stuff like that. You know, so this is another thing. It's because China does everything cheaper, right? They could process that soybean cheaper and make it into.
How do you ship it there for cheaper? That's what I don't ever know.
Well, how do you
ship it there cheaper and then ship it back?
How do you ship beef from Namibia to
no? What I'm saying
US
is the
and make it
government
affordable,
subsidizes
right?
all of this nonsense.
Yeah,
our
it doesn't make
government
any
is
sense.
subsidizing all the nonsense, and then also some of the stuff that they say that they do over there, it's here and they own it.
Yeah, I wanted to show this video that Emily sent me. Now that I finally got it queued up, if I can get it to play. So.
And what they want is to eliminate the access to so much meat, so people are stuck with only the fake meat.
I have a serious issue with this sizing this thing. I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah,
Emily, do you want to introduce the videos you sent while Tom cues it up?
Yeah, let me.
Yeah. So I went to Walmart today and asked my dad if he wanted me to get him something. He said, yeah, pick me up a ribeye. And this is what I found.
Yeah, I wish I could play it. I've got.
That's okay.
I can't get to the controls to play it.
That says it all right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't get my dad a ribeye because there was nothing.
And that's the expensive stuff. I mean, at Walmart, you know, it's not like super discounted ribeyes or anything at Walmart.
Yeah.
Nice sandals, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah. And so, I mean, that was it. There was nothing. There was no ribeyes, no sirloins, no New York strips, no nothing.
So anybody else have any ideas on what they can do to improve the food supply in their area? I mean, we know we went to, in the beginning, it was a lot of people were kind of hoarding, you know, they'd run out and buying food faster than it was being put on the shelf. But now we actually have an issue where that food, you know, the animals aren't getting processed. So they're talking about euthanizing them, and we're getting beef. And if you read the articles about that beef being imported from Africa, it says frozen and chilled. So you can imagine eating some ground beef that came on a ship all the way from Africa that's just chilled. I mean, doesn't sound like a good plan, does it?
I guess we
No.
better start building up our stomach acid. Start eating more raw. There you go.
Hey Joe, do you think there's any impact in Australia on the food supply over there that you know of?
No, not at all.
And I heard
went.
we import from you guys, right, Joe?
Sorry.
I heard we actually import from you guys in the United States. We import.
Yeah,
a lot of
probably. I mean,
Sure.
we export to everyone. So I mean, all the beef here is all Australian. It's all Australian beef, unless I mean, you might find maybe some Kobe beef that's been imported from Japan, but we grow it here as well. We grow everything, and we export to everyone around the world. So, but going back to that country of origin, the only time you'll see it here, well, I mean, it's got to be on all labels. But the only time you really have to be concerned is when you buy seafood, because there is seafood products that do come from Asia, like calamari or squid, prawns, some types of fish, and that's it. But as far as beef, it's all beef, lamb, pork. It's all Australian.
Yeah, and I mean,
And
when it comes to labeling food, like he said, everything here in the United States has a sticker on it that says "Made in China" by law. Because everything's made in China. So why wouldn't we put that on food too, right?
But yet, fruit and veggies.
96.
I was just going to say, but yet fruit and veggies are we import from all around the world.
We have 96% of the seafood in America is imported from China and Taiwan and the East.
But that's because it's so cheap to grow it over there and process it. So there's a brand of barramundi here. Barramundi is a type of fish. I don't know if you have it over there. Okay. Anyway, it's a type of fish. So they hatch them here. They send them to Singapore, grow them in pens, and then ship it back to Australia and process it. Or they might even process it over there. But
that's where all the
it's still
ocean farms
farmed.
are. Yeah, it's all ocean farms over there.
But I mean, getting your meat from, where is it? From Africa, it would be much cheaper to grow the cattle, slaughter, process, and ship it over than what it probably is to get it, to grow it over there. Labor costs are nothing. And the feed is probably nothing as well.
I'm just going to share this because I've never heard of a barramundi before. So I figure, well, that's a pretty big fish.
Oh, nice.
I wonder if it just goes by a different name here.
You can get them smaller than that. They're quite a nice fish. Very, very popular.
Huh.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
A big fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you can get them quite small as well. But yeah, I mean, that's
kind of like our sea bass,
yeah.
like our East Coast sea bass.
So
I was going to say, I went to the supermarket yesterday, and I mean, a couple of weeks ago, when all the craze started and all the panic buying, there was no meat anywhere. Now you can find it, an abundance of it, everywhere you go, and whatever you want. Even to the point where there are some, retailers, supermarkets that are discounting the meat because they can't get rid of it. They've got so much of it.
Wow. So we just need to go to Australia. And Joe's been telling us this for like months. He's been telling us that the American dollar, and if we would have just listened to you like a month, 2 months ago.
Right. Just flown up and get a free vacation because we wouldn't let him fly back.
And then we'd be stuck and we'd have meat.
Yep. Well, it was 50 cents. For every Australian dollar, I was getting 50 US cents. So if you came here, you would have cleaned up. You could have come here and bought boxes of meat, flown back.
Dang.
Yeah, well, I mean, over here locally, so I use an app called Flip, F-L-I-P-P, to just get cheap prices on meat. Still shopping at the store, Niti. I'm sorry, I'm sinning. Please forgive me of my sin. Absolve me. But yeah, so, they had bone-in New York steaks for $4.77 a pound. Not bad. Anything under $5 a pound, I'm all for. And I went today, and there was a sign that said you could only buy 2 packages of meat. That's the whole rationing that we read in an article earlier. And then I actually talked to the guy and he said they were out. I was like, damn, that's a bummer. You know, which is kind of funny because there's this kind of weird paradox as being a carnivore and promoting carnivory in a time of crisis. Because it's like, I've now created more people that I have to fight with, not fight, but fight with to get my medicine. So it's kind of an interesting take on it. And granted, it was like 3:30 in the afternoon. You know, I kind of just strolled in there. Yes, I have plenty of food, but you know, if you want to donate to the Justin Fund, I am all good for that.
Well, if you get stuck, I got a couple of Brandon's torpedoes in the freezer. So
there you go. Thank you, Tom.
Who sent me this link? When you meathead sent it. Hey, Raymond, what's your situation with food over there?
Costco's got plenty of ribeye, but they are limiting to 1 to 3. I'm sorry, they have 3 meats package. So of course I get the roast. So damn, 3 roasts would be a lot. So I usually get 1 roast at a time. So it's plenty. It's been plentiful.
Yeah, I know currently where I live, it's like you go in the big box store and you can get 1 package of fresh beef, 1 of pork, 1 of chicken, 1 of lamb. And of course, the packages of lamb are tiny and really expensive, and usually from New Zealand. And the chicken is frequently wiped out. And so what are you holding up there, Joe?
So that's some beef that I got yesterday because I haven't had a chance to get to Norm and get the meat from him. So this is grass-fed beef. And as I was saying, discounted, you know, $15 or $16 Australian per kilo. So a kilo is 2.2 pounds, I think.
So it's about $8 a pound.
You know, usually it's about $28 a kilo.
Whoa,
so
it's like half price.
Yeah. So, I mean,
what cut is that?
Strip loin.
My favorite.
That's really affordable.
Okay, that's, yeah.
New York strip.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, so as I said, there's just so much oversupply at the moment that they can't get rid of it.
Well, and I have noticed, you know, like Shawn will be, he'll be pimping for some supplier that's going out of business because the restaurant's shut down, and those guys will sell out in like 24 hours when it hits the wire. So there is opportunities out there. And I know my buddy Jillian, she started a local thing so that we can kind of network, and if we need to, we can split a cow or something like that, where we can buy local beef. And it hasn't really gotten off the ground yet, but you know, people can do that, and of course, and Niti can help with stuff like that. So
I just want to say one more thing. Just when I was at the grocery store, this I thought was funny. So one of the limits was only 1 bag of sugar and 1 bag of flour. Now, I kind of understand the 1 bag of flour, like, okay, you know, make your own breads and stuff like that. But the 1 pound of sugar didn't make, like, who's like, you know, it's a virus. You know what I really need to make myself healthy? Some bag of sugar. But my assumption is that it's all the people that are baking, I guess. So there was a run on bake supplies, you know, so like the sugar and the flour. But I'm like,
eggs.
Maybe bread, making bread.
And
but
eggs.
why the sugar? You don't put sugar in bread.
All the kids are home from school. So the parents are probably like, let's make some cookies so that they're just busy, or cake.
But this just shows how poorly people know about nutrition and health, because and it's kind of like you see so much that food has moved from the nutrition and health domain to the entertainment domain, you know. Yeah, so that was just some confirmation there for me at that.
Yeah, cooking is big entertainment, you know, and really all cooking is, you know, all this, you know, putting all recipes together and all these different techniques is really just trying to make our food taste like something else than what it really is.
But you don't need help to make sugar taste good. That's the problem.
This is true.
It's the arts and crafts for the kids so that they can bake something. Whenever they want to teach kids how to cook, they only teach them how to bake. They never teach them how to actually cook anything. That's the
Yeah,
problem I have with it.
I've never seen
It's
a
like
class
teach them how
on
to grill something,
teach
but
them how to
they're not.
grill. Exactly.
No, they can't be near fire. You can't give them a knife, and so you're not allowed to teach them how to use a knife or knife skills. I did a video with Jaya with a knife. I cannot tell you how many people screamed at me because I let the child use a freaking knife, and I was like, really? Because
It's a big deal.
she needs to learn how to use a knife.
You can't even take a butter knife to school. So you can't even take a dull butter knife to school anymore. So,
my kids eat with a knife and a fork, and they know how to use a knife. And Jaya cooks, and she uses a knife all the time. And she's been using a knife since she was 5 or 4 or something like that. And Covey has too. And I can't believe it, because when we were in school, we used to actually have steak knives in the cafeteria.
You weren't stuck with that stupid spork?
We had real silverware. I mean, we could really have hurt somebody, I guess. But
we had to eat Salisbury steak with a spork when I was a kid.
I don't get it. Do you know that let's pretend that you want to hoard meat here, Joe, you can't buy freezers around here. Like, all the freezers are sold out.
Yeah, it's so dumb. It's true here too.
Yeah. Because
the same thing happened here. And I think what's happened is everyone's gone out and filled their freezers up. Like, there are people buying chest freezers. They're buying just any type of freezer. They've stocked it up with meat, and now they've got meat for months that they don't need to go to the shop and buy any meat. So that's why there's so much meat sitting on the shelves there, discounted. I mean, it's perfect.
Well, when you roll up to the store and you see this giant line, and you're like, I got a freezer full at home. Screw this line. I'm going to go home and defrost something.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't bugged by not being able to get my steaks. I've got my freezer full. So, it was just, you don't want to panic buy, but you also don't want to have to go without,
Right.
So, it sucks. You don't want to get in the group mentality or group think or herd mentality, but it's like, God damn it, if all you other mother chuckers are, going to go and do it, I need this, I have to go and stand in this stupid line now. Thanks.
Right. Well, I mean, you've got 98 rolls of toilet paper. Is that enough? I mean, you don't know how long you're going to be.
If you're fasting and only eat once every 36 hours.
Why are we importing beef and we're not importing more of the paper pulp to make the freaking toilet paper? Like, what has to happen for them to make the toilet paper here? Because they're saying that Georgia Pacific was only making the commercial grade toilet paper for Americans, and that we were importing pulp, probably from China or wherever, to make the other toilet paper. And I mean, not that I feel like, I just don't understand. I mean, we're wasting and pouring out food and meat and animals, but we can't make toilet paper. I'm really confused about it. And we don't want to import that. We don't want to import that because they stopped all the imports, and supposedly that's the reason.
I think one of the problems with this virus is, it was dangerous, but we allowed the government to overreact. And here in California, I don't know if anybody's as sick of seeing the governor on TV as I am, because he's like, I don't even watch TV news, but everywhere I go, all I see is a governor on TV. He must be on TV like 3 times a day or something.
3 times an hour.
He wants to keep everything shut down. And it's like, look, if you're an at-risk person and you need to stay home because, you've got a lung issue or immunity issue, or you're elderly, or you're, whatever, you're diabetic or whatever, I get it. But healthy people can go out with masks and gloves on and social distance and take measures and stuff like that. And, society doesn't have to come to a grinding halt. Businesses don't have to collapse. You're not going to have to put everybody on a respirator. Most people who get the virus don't get that sick, and fine, check people for fevers when they're coming in. Why not? All that stuff makes sense. But to force everybody to stay home and force people to go out of business, and then you throw people a few dollars and just put the country deeper in debt before it collapses. Is just kind of dumb. So, and
Karl Marx would be proud.
He would. He's probably smiling in his grave. So, or in the Kremlin, wherever they stuffed him. So, any other parting words for anybody? I know we already lost Emily. We exhausted poor Emily. She had to go.
Just a couple of things. One, it hasn't been proven that the coronavirus could be transferred from meat to people. We're not sure I think a infected worker at a meat plant would literally have to pick up the meat, cough on it, put it back down, which, they're not supposed to do anyway, no matter what kind of sickness they had. It doesn't really matter. So why with coronavirus are they shutting it down and not every other flu season? You know what I mean? So, and you stick the meat in your freezer, you're going to cook it. The whole point of cooking it is killing any possible virus or bacteria that could make you sick. If you have decent stomach acid, that should also help. So yeah, it's completely nonsensical top to bottom, and then I just want to say, Niti, in 5 sentences, what's the answer? Because I know you have the answer. So go for it, Niti.
I'm still going to say get out of the grocery store.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want you to say.
Yeah, I think it's important first of all, we're all embedded in nature, and we are animals of nature, and we thrive in nature. And also, I think that if there's so many people that you can build relationships with that are not that far away from you. And every time I talk to somebody who says that they think they can't do it, they're surprised and shocked and amazed at how quickly and how easily they're able to do it. And when people say they can't afford it, I think Emily has proven that single-handedly, that anybody can afford it.
Even with a mug like mine, I can't just smile and batter my eyelashes like Emily, unfortunately.
Well, I just want to throw in on the meat packing plants in the coronavirus plant off of what. Now, what happens is that it's widely reported that, I closed a meat packing plant because of the coronavirus, and nobody talks about the other food handling facilities or that are closed down or whatever, because for whatever reason, media and people who like to promote these stories want to focus on meat and sort of try and draw some conclusion between meat and the coronavirus, right? But of course, all kinds of factories have been closed down, have nothing to do with meat, right? So they just don't get reported on in the same context, right? It's an anti-meat thing is what it is.
Well, we've had a plant here in Melbourne that's been not shut down, but they've had a few cases of workers that are infected, and it's been all over the news.
Oh, there you go. Well, go ahead, Niti.
Does McDonald's have a shortage?
I don't know.
Burger King?
Well, they're talking about having to raise prices, I guess. Because of possible shortages it's in one of the articles.
Did they raise prices? Like, have you been? I don't go to any of these places. I don't know.
I haven't been in a while, but yeah, they're talking about raising prices. Because they're having difficulty
just
getting
not
the
in
meat.
and out. If there is a price in and out, we're screwed.
No, I just am saying, like, around here, nobody's raising prices or changing prices at the restaurants that serve meat. I know that people are going and getting it. I know that people are eating out. I think it's interesting nobody is concerned at all about somebody making their food as long as they can get through the drive-thru to go pick it up. I think that it's also amazing that nobody cares that, your house can still be cleaned, your lawn can still be maintained, your,
liquor store still open.
You can all still go to Walmart, because everybody has to go to Walmart to get everything.
You can still go to the liquor store and get a tall boy and a pack of smokes.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, it says right here, so fast food chains typically buy 50% beef trim, 90% lean. However, demand for trim has increased. It's priced to around $1.93 per pound. from 0.25. So yeah, in the beginning of April. So yeah, that's the price that they're paying the fast food chain.
And the price of meat since it started has fluctuated quite a bit, and it is higher right now than, like a New York strip where I normally buy it is more expensive than I remember it ever being, by probably 50 cents a pound right now.
That's like not a lot of money though. 50 cents.
No, it's not. But I mean, that's 50 cents more than it's ever been. Okay. And it's probably $2 more, maybe $2.50 more than its low in the last few years. So,
well, I'm just saying that you can't support a local boutique where you might not only have but 3 people in the building ever at one time, but you can support Walmart.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And Niti, kind of what I wanted to get you to say, I'm sorry, not trying to, is rogue food. Throw out rogue food. Rogue food's the answer. Tell us about rogue food really quick.
And we'll put a link in the show notes to rogue food.
Yeah. So rogue food just means that we do not comply. We do not comply. We do not comply. We don't comply with government regulations.
Rogue food is an organization, right?
It's a movement. It's bigger
than movement.
It's a movement.
It's a movement. I would say it's a movement. We are just, rogue food is talking about how to empower the producers so they can directly sell to the eaters. See, eaters don't get it. Eaters don't know that farmers can't sell directly to the eaters. They have to go through all these corporations, or they have to pay these asinine amount of pricing and whatever that they can never afford to pay in order to be able to sell directly. And so everybody says, well, why is it so expensive to get meat directly from the farmer? Because the farmer has to pay $1 million to be able to do business with you. But if they were just allowed to legally operate and sell things to you easily, with ease and flow, by coming into your neighborhood, for example, or whatever, and just saying, if they were allowed to pick a neighborhood closest to them and just drive around your neighborhood and let you buy out of the back of their truck with no restriction, you could get the meat cheaper and they could sell it easier and there would be no problem. But there's 25 hands in between all of that. And so that's what makes regenerative meat so much more expensive and unattainable for people. So if America just wants to decide, like Americans just decide that they don't want any more government oversight and they just want to find the rogue food people, then, that would help resolve a whole lot of things. But that means you have to take responsibility. You can't say, this meat is bad because you thawed it out and it sat out for too long and now you messed up. You done messed up. You shouldn't have thawed it out and left it out for so long. And if you would have just timed it out and did it properly, if you ruin meat, then it's your responsibility. There is no recourse. There's no coming back for a refund. And that's the problem.
On that note, we better wrap it up. So I want to thank everybody for watching. We look forward to your comments. I want to thank everybody for showing up and making this entertaining. And everybody out there, please subscribe.
Hit that like button. Special shout out to my boy, David Icke. He got censored. His YouTube channel was taken off and his Facebook channel was taken off today. Whether or not you agree with him, disagree with him, got to give him a shout out. Rogue food, rogue knowledge. There's no such thing as hate speech. No such thing as wrong think.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Feel better.